The FBI called him the Border Tunnel Baron. His underground empire fueled chaos across America. Carlos Ramirez had built bridges across 3 states and designed subway systems in 2 major cities. By 2014, the 42-year-old civil engineer was using those same skills to construct something far more sinister, the most sophisticated border tunnel network in FBI history. Federal investigators would later describe Ramirez's operation as a masterclass in criminal engineering. His tunnels weren't crude smuggling holes. They were marvels of modern construction turned to deadly purpose. Air-conditioned corridors stretched for miles beneath the Texas-Mexico border, complete with reinforced concrete walls, LED lighting systems, and electric rail cars that could transport massive quantities of drugs and dozens of people at a time. The numbers were staggering. Over 6 years, Ramirez's tunnel network had generated an estimated $2.3 billion in revenue from drug trafficking and human smuggling. Court documents would later reveal that heroin and fentanyl transported through his tunnels were directly linked to 847 overdose deaths across the southwest United States, including Isabella Herrera and her teenage daughter Maria, who died in a tunnel collapse during a human trafficking operation. But it was an intelligence report in March 2016 that elevated Ramirez from a high-priority target to the FBI's most wanted fugitive. Agents discovered that his tunnels had been used to smuggle 3 suspected terrorists into the United States, individuals who had evaded capture and disappeared into American cities. According to FBI Assistant Director Maria Santos, Carlos Ramirez represented the most significant border security threat we encountered in decades. His engineering expertise had created a criminal infrastructure that threatened national security. The federal indictment against Ramirez eventually included 47 charges: drug trafficking conspiracy, human trafficking, money laundering, terrorism facilitation, and murder, in furtherance of a continuing criminal enterprise. On March 15, 2016, the FBI added Carlos Ramirez to the 10 most wanted fugitives list. The manhunt for the border tunnel baron was about to begin. At 4:47 a.m. on March 16, 2016, FBI agents launched coordinated raids across 12 locations in El Paso, Houston, and 3 Mexican border cities. They expected to find Carlos Ramirez at his fortified mansion in the hills overlooking El Paso. Instead, they found an empty house and evidence that their target had vanished just hours before their arrival. Federal agents discovered Ramirez's escape route in the mansion's basement, a professionally constructed tunnel that extended 200 yards underground, emerging in a drainage culvert half a mile away. Security cameras showed a black SUV leaving the culvert exit at 11:23 p.m. the previous night, exactly 5 hours before the raids began. Someone had tipped him off, recalls Special Agent Rebecca Martinez, who led the El Paso task force. The timing was too perfect. He knew we were coming. The FBI's initial pursuit focused on Mexico, where Ramirez maintained extensive criminal contacts. Within 48 hours, agents had identified 7 safe houses across Juarez and Tijuana that were connected to his smuggling network. Each one proved to be a dead end. Elaborate decoys complete with fake identities, planted evidence, and even body doubles designed to confuse surveillance. For 3 months, the task force followed false leads across Mexico's northern states. Agents spent countless hours reviewing security footage from border crossings, analyzing financial records from shell companies, and coordinating with Mexican federal police. Every promising lead evaporated upon investigation. The most frustrating near-miss came in June 2016, when Mexican authorities raided a compound in Guadalajara based on a credible tip. They found Ramirez's personal effects, including identification documents and family photographs, but he had apparently left just days earlier. A groundskeeper claimed he had seen a man matching Ramirez's description, but the trail led nowhere. By September 2016, the intensive cross-border investigation had consumed thousands of man-hours and yielded nothing concrete. Carlos Ramirez had seemingly vanished without a trace, leaving behind only empty safe houses, false identities, and a criminal empire that continued operating in his absence. The trail had gone cold. The FBI refused to let Carlos Ramirez disappear into history. In October 2016, they established the Border Tunnel Task Force, a specialized 37-agent unit dedicated exclusively to his capture. Led by the El Paso field office and coordinated with DI, ICE, and Border Patrol, the operation would eventually consume a $12 million budget over the next 5 years. Agent Martinez describes their strategy. "We knew Ramirez couldn't just disappear forever. A man with his expertise, his ego, his need to control criminal operations. He would surface eventually. Our job was to be ready when he did." The task force coordinated with law enforcement agencies across 17 countries throughout Latin America. They monitored Interpol databases, analyzed financial intelligence reports, and maintained surveillance on known associates who remained at large. Slowly, a pattern began to emerge. In April 2018, Mexican authorities reported a Ramirez sighting in Mexico City. A man matching his description had been spotted at an upscale restaurant in the Polanco district. By the time federal agents arrived, he was gone, but security footage confirmed their target was alive and had undergone plastic surgery to alter his appearance. The next confirmed sighting came 18 months later in Bogotá, Colombia. Intelligence reports indicated that Ramirez was attempting to establish new smuggling routes through South America, using his engineering expertise to design tunnels beneath the Panama Canal. Colombian National Police surrounded his suspected safe house at dawn on November 3, 2019, only to discover that their target had escaped through, naturally, a tunnel beneath the building. A similar scene played out in Caracas, Venezuela, in March 2020. This time, agents missed Ramirez by mere minutes. Neighbors reported seeing a man flee through a back window as police vehicles approached from the front. A cup of coffee was still warm on the kitchen table. Meanwhile, financial investigators were making progress. The FBI's asset forfeiture team had identified and frozen $47 million in hidden accounts across 7 countries. Each frozen asset represented another resource denied to Ramirez, another way to limit his options and force him into increasingly desperate circumstances. 4 years had passed since his disappearance. But the FBI was patient, methodical, relentless. They knew that eventually, Carlos Ramirez would make a mistake. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. On August 12, 2021, Salvadoran authorities arrested Miguel Torrentes, Ramirez's most trusted lieutenant and the operational manager of his tunnel network, during a routine traffic stop in San Salvador. When agents discovered $2.3 million in cash in his vehicle's hidden compartments, Torrentes realized his situation was hopeless. Torrentes had been with Ramirez since the beginning, explains Agent Martinez. He knew everything: tunnel locations, financial networks, safe houses, and, most importantly, where his boss was hiding. Facing 40 years in federal prison, Torrentes agreed to cooperate with the FBI in exchange for a reduced sentence. His information was a goldmine. Ramirez wasn't just hiding in Guatemala City. He was actively planning his return to the smuggling business, designing an ambitious new tunnel that would run beneath the Guatemala-Mexico border. According to Torrentes, Ramirez had grown frustrated with his exile. The engineering genius missed the enormous profits his tunnels generated and was determined to rebuild his criminal empire. He had spent months acquiring property along the border and recruiting local construction workers for his new project. The FBI coordinated immediately with Guatemalan authorities. Within 72 hours, a joint task force had established 24-hour surveillance on the safe house Torrentes had identified, a nondescript 2-story building in Guatemala City's Zona 10 district, registered under yet another false identity. For 3 weeks, agents monitored the property from concealed positions. They photographed visitors, intercepted communications, and tracked financial transactions connected to the address. Every piece of intelligence confirmed that Carlos Ramirez was inside, planning his comeback. On September 8, 2021, surveillance cameras captured definitive proof. A man matching Ramirez's post-surgery appearance was seen entering the building with architectural blueprints under his arm. The same man had purchased specialized tunneling equipment earlier that day using a credit card linked to one of his known aliases. The net was finally tightening. After 5 years, 5 months, and 23 days of international pursuit, the border tunnel baron was about to discover that his luck had run out. Federal agents prepared for the operation that would bring Carlos Ramirez to justice. At 4:15 a.m. on September 10, 2021, a joint FBI Guatemalan task force surrounded the safe house in Guatemala City's Zona 10 district. Carlos Ramirez's 6-year run from justice was about to end. The tactical teams expected resistance. Intelligence suggested that Ramirez had constructed another escape tunnel beneath the building, and agents knew he had previously threatened to never be taken alive. As SWAT units positioned themselves around the property, thermal imaging detected 2 individuals inside the structure. "FBI, you're surrounded," Agent Martinez announced through a bullhorn at exactly 4:30 a.m. "Exit the building with your hands visible." The response was silence. What followed was a tense 6-hour standoff. Ramirez had indeed constructed an escape route, a reinforced concrete bunker beneath the building's foundation, accessible through a hidden panel in the kitchen floor. But this time, he had nowhere to run. The tunnel led to a drainage system that agents had already blocked. Negotiator spoke with Ramirez through a communication system he had installed in his bunker. According to FBI transcripts, the fugitive engineer expressed amazement at the task force's persistence. 6 years, he reportedly said. "You people never give up." At 10:47 a.m., Carlos Ramirez finally surrendered. He emerged from the bunker unarmed, wearing the same clothes he had fled in nearly 6 years earlier. There was no dramatic shootout, no final chase scene, just a tired man accepting the inevitable. Extradition proceedings moved swiftly. By December 2021, Ramirez was back on American soil, facing trial in federal court in El Paso, Texas. The evidence against him was overwhelming. Financial records, surveillance footage, tunnel blueprints, and testimony from former associates. On June 15, 2022, a federal jury convicted Carlos Ramirez on all 47 charges. Judge Rebecca Morrison sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole, calling his crimes a betrayal of engineering expertise that caused immeasurable harm to American communities. Today, Carlos Ramirez serves his sentence at ADX Florence, the federal Supermax prison in Colorado. His tunnel network has been permanently sealed with concrete, and his criminal empire has been dismantled. The border tunnel baron's reign of terror is over. Justice, at last, has been served.